Hello, it's Theresa Gutierrez with 11th Hour Shaman. Welcome to my cup of tea podcast slash video blog. This is where each week, or maybe a little less, I'll explore a shaman's perspective and practices in emotional sovereignty, self-reliance, nutritional herbalism, and natural health, dream work, intuitive body work, and soul purpose. Basically, a kaleidoscope of topics when choosing an unconventional path in these modern days. All so you and I can create a life that we love to love. I'm your hostess, Theresa Gutierrez. I'm an author, an NDEer, vegan strong mom of 4, and goofy Grammy of 2. Also, the founder of 11thhourshaman.com, the portal for bringing your dreams into physical reality. How? By living in a daily rhythm that's in alignment with your soul's purpose, your divinely designed self-expression. So if you value personal growth and soul purpose, if you value your body temple and health as the conduit to spirit that it is, and if you value your sovereignty and self-reliance, you've landed in the right place, because we discuss real strategies and earth-based shamanic practices proven safe and effective for decades, or, millennia, actually. So nestle in with your favorite cup of tea, and say thank you for the angels sitting right next to you or standing right by your side. Now, let's get to it. We are talking about grief today. I posted a blog, Moth Spirit and the Grief Behind Disease. Did you know that carrying grief for a prolonged periods of time can actually cause disease in the body? Now, a lot of people might know this, but also a lot of people might not. And it's really interesting how grief strongly affects the nervous system, really like a shock to the system. And it can then affect our lungs, our large intestines, our heart, the rhythm of our heart. It can actually cause physical pain in the heart. And we really want to be mindful, whether it's acute grief or older, more chronic grief, to really nourish the body. If you're grieving, please nourish your body, especially with really, how do I want to word this? Really powerful but safe herbs. So what I mean is there's a whole group of herbs called nervines, and those nervines really nourish the nervous system. And in so doing, they also nourish these more specific body systems like the heart or the lungs or the large intestine, our ability to digest, our ability to breathe in life, our ability to move with the rhythms of life. And at the end of this, I'm going to list out just a few herbs that I would choose if that were the case. Now, the reason I titled my blog Moth Spirit, M-O-T-H, just in case I'm not speaking clearly, is because I have been seeing client after client with grief, like deep, deep grief, but I don't think they knew they had it. Like they came to me for a health problem, not an emotional one. And so I think it's really fascinating that when we get on the body and I'm just listening to the energy, just listening to what is being shared from the body, that is what's coming up for them, is deep, deep, deep grief. Now, Moth Spirit came to me, and so I've just been really contemplating on how moth can help all of us in times of grief. So to start off, I would like to express I've had a lot of experience with grief from different angles. So I don't want you to feel isolated or alone in your experience of grief. Grief beckons us to surrender to it, not because it's cruel, but because it's a sacred gateway. To where? To what? You're asking? I wish I could tell you exactly where your grief is taking you, but I can't. I can only most honestly speak for myself and hope that it speaks to you in some way. My griefs, my traumas, my wounds and losses have carried me windingly into the arms of spirit in many different forms over the years. Grief has carried me into conscious contact with my soul, my purpose for being here, and into endless wells of compassion for our humanity as a whole. Divine love has sat with me in the darkness and floods of tears countless times in my life. To quote Susan Griffin, she says, "At the center of all my sorrows, I have felt a presence that was not mine alone." The profound, expansive, and eternal parts of us are meant to awaken, to activate, and come alive in the darkest parts of our life stories. Feeling so much pain until you're numb, hollow, foggy, and lost is only one part of grief's story. I'm here to give a voice to the other side of grief's story, too. We can hold both. There's room for all of us. And we're most certainly not alone in this process. Moth spirit also comes alive as darkness descends. It's no accident that Moth spirit came to see me recently, as I've also been seeing several clients whose bodies share with me the profound depths of grief they've been harboring, unattended and unexpressed, sometimes for several decades. Moth spirit can navigate in the dark. My clients have all received at least one health diagnosis they want to resolve, and they sought me out because they know the disease has deeper roots, deeper beginnings than just the physical manifestation of their ailment. Receiving a diagnosis can fuel new feelings of grief, let alone the old origins of older griefs from long ago. I feel that Moth Spirit is a compassionate, helping spirit meant to guide us as we navigate the darkness of our grief and pain through our faith. Experiencing the great emptiness of grief in no way diminishes or negates your sense of spirituality or your belief in spirit or a higher power. I'm not aiming for spiritual perfectionism any more than you are. And having faith in a spiritual belief system doesn't mean we're now somehow immune to negative human emotions. Grief is a natural human response to loss, and we may experience grief as frequent waves hitting the shore, or as the slower phases of the moon, or perhaps even longer seasons of dark and light. Your faith is not an escape hatch from the darker paths, or darker parts of life and grieving, but it's a magnificent navigation tool to find where you need to go next to nourish your being, your body, and your new life moving forward. But you can't possibly move forward until you claim the faith and the courage to grieve in a way that makes you feel safe and held. When you don't have access to this sense of safety and assurance that you're not alone and all your emotions really are okay, then grief gets choked down and buried for so long that it makes you sick. Grief is one of those stress hormone releasing emotions. And if we carry that around chronically, it breaks down the body. It creates inflammation. It is too much for too long. And so we really do want to prioritize grieving and digesting our grief and finding ways to heal so that you don't stay sick if you've been diagnosed as sick. So I have to ask, have you been afraid to grieve? Like, you can't see the bottom of that well, that endless abyss. So you avoid grieving and you keep it all stuffed down. Or have you perhaps been grieving for years, but feel stuck in it, weighed down by it, unable to sort out all the emotions enmeshed with your grief? And you can't seem to move forward in your life. Maybe you've got one foot stuck in your own grave, so to speak. For me, I often didn't feel safe to grieve. What about you? Is there something about your circumstances or environment that makes you feel like it's not safe to grieve? And now, on top of it all, you've been diagnosed with at least one major health problem that you may also not be able to see your way out of yet. I see the diagnosis as an opportunity for deep healing that includes opening up ourselves to the profound experience of infinity while you're still here in a body. I believe we can heal anything we want to when we partner with spirit, plants, and our soul's purpose for being here in the first place. I promise you that your purpose is not to remain small and disempowered in your grief. You're not here to only suffer. Grief can expand us into the infinite one, but it's often experienced as Rilke wrote. He said, I don't have much knowledge yet in grief, so this massive darkness makes me small. Until you choose to generate the courage to grieve, to get the help you need to digest your grief, you'll never know the inexplicable sacred gifts that grief has to offer you, specifically you as an individual soul. Let's be clear, nobody wants a reason to grieve. But love it or hate it, living a human life brings endless opportunities to grieve, to love, to feel joy, to feel anger, to feel bitter disappointment, to experience incredible relationships full of closeness and connection, to basically experience the full spectrum of human emotions. We cannot, as much as we may think we want to, only experience sunshine and fair weather days, and your life and mine proves it to us. Joanna Macy says, the heart that breaks open can contain the whole universe. As you experience your ability to contain the whole universe expand through doing your grief work, you'll come to discover that your best days are ahead of you, not behind you. You'll begin to realize that your heart is capable of feeling a genuine joy for living again. I remember when my mom died and I was 15 years old thinking, I don't want to live the rest of my life without her. That's way too long. For sure. That's what I thought. And now this past September, it's been 35 years of living my life without my mom in the normal physical sense kind of way. My relationship with her changed dramatically when she died very suddenly that Thursday morning. I wasn't able to truly grieve, to feel safe to grieve until about 21 years later. It took a long time. And I had no idea that I was full of anger and grief. So sometimes we bury our emotions for a really long time until it is safe and until we've been pushed one way or another, either through a diagnosis or something else. Maybe life is falling apart, not your body, but something's pushing for you to see what grief is under there and how can we heal. Death wasn't my only gateway into grief. I survived childhood abuse, painful relationships, lies, betrayal, and divorce too. And on the other side of my life coin is a bunch of love, absolute delight and actual miracles. So many miracles. I feel like for me, my griefs opened me up to the spiritual realm. I remember sometimes in depending on what the grief event was, I prayed and I sought the oneness of God because I really believed that if I could feel that love and closeness from spirit, that nothing else was as important in that moment. I felt inside of me that that was exactly what I needed to get me through the pain and to help me live my life because I needed to live it. I had lots of reasons to, I just couldn't always see them unless spirit helped me and illuminated my mind and my ability to see more clearly that I do have wonderful, better years ahead. So I'm asking you, please don't settle for a grief-ridden body, and please don't settle for a life defined by grief alone. We've all got two sides of the coin, and one side has all the crappy stuff, pardon my language, and the other side has all the great stuff. And my life for sure has not been 100% awful or 100% amazing. And we all have that. We all have that capacity and ability to find all of it for ourselves and to honor where we are at today. So if today you're full of grief and sorrow and need support, then please get it. And if today is a better day, embrace it and enjoy it. I encourage you to reach for your loved ones, reach for the plants, the herbs that can help you heal and support your nervous system, and reach for your angels and reach out to me for shamanic healing. Archangel Azrael is especially helpful when facing grief, as are the following herbs. Lemon balm. I find this one especially for hidden griefs or grief associated with a dry cough or any sort of spasm going on. Lemon balm is antispasmodic. So a lot of times because our nervous system is so rattled, we can develop muscle spasms pretty much anywhere. And lemon balm is really great and nurturing to help us alleviate that symptom. Rose petals from the wild rose, hawthorn leaves, flowers, or berries, mimosa bark, and marshmallow root or leaves are all really beautiful, supportive herbs for supporting us through grief. And it's important to support and restore the nervous system through the grief process, whether it's acute or chronic. So I do this with shamanic counseling and practices, body work, herbalism, dream work, and your hand analysis, which speaks to your highest potential, as well as finding what your blind spots are, your life lessons, and it speaks to your gifts that you're here to serve with. Because my opinion is if you're still alive, then you're here for a reason. You've got a soul purpose to fulfill. And grief work is just part of what's going to help you do that at the highest capacity for you. So I give free consultations to work with me one-to-one. If you have any questions, feel free to call me or text me. Email is Theresa at 11thhourshaman.com, and all my contact info is there. I've also been to Shamanic Grief Ritual, and I'm working now with a colleague to create a community grief ritual here. Before I traveled to California to work with my cousin, Maria Owl from sacredfuture.org. And I don't know if she's still facilitating grief ritual, but she is teaching facilitation. But if you, well, like I said, she's not right now planning on facilitating grief ritual, but that was in California and I'm in Arizona. So hopefully wherever you are, you can find a local community grief ritual, because it's really important to feel connected with others and to feel supported and to feel held, that humans are here to support you too, not just spirit. And also, as I said, the herbs and herbalism can really help support you in spirit as well as your body. The herbs come to me in dreams, and I know it's their herb spirits saying, "We can help you. We want to help you. Come over here and partake of me." And so we're surrounded by support. I think sometimes when we are in isolation, though, we forget that. We forget how many different ways we are supported by the universe to carry us through our most difficult and challenging times of our lives. But again, I want to reiterate that even if you're still in a dark place, partially because maybe you believe that you couldn't possibly have better days ahead of you because of this loss or trauma, some sort of big change. I promise you that you can create a beautiful future for yourself, and you don't have to do it alone. So again, reach out to me, Theresa at 11thhourshaman.com, and take excellent care of yourself. Thank you for tuning in to 11th Hour Shaman's Cup of Tea podcast. I'm so honored that you're tuning in. I'm here for you and yours. You can book a free consultation to work with me for angel readings, angel guided healings, shamanic practices, and more. I do in-person and long distance or remote healings. I am so looking forward to hearing from you. Until next time, let's just be the most real self we can be today and move towards our dreams and our healing one guided step at a time. Big squishy hugs till then. Bye.